Hello, my name is Sofia Abetova. I'm the teacher of international business in Near East University. Today we discuss the impact of international trade. So, and the first question is main directions of foreign trade policy and WTO. Okay, depending on the scale of intervention of the state in international trade, distinguish a protectionist commercial policy and the policy of free trade. Protectionism, state policy to protect the domestic market from foreign competition through the use of tariff and non-tariff instruments of trade policy, like selective, sectoral, collective, and sometimes hidden. Freedom of trade, or we can say free trade or liberalization, is a policy of minimal state interference in foreign trade, which develops on the basis of free market forces of supply and demand. So there are many protectionist policies in place in many nations, despite the fact that there is a popular consensus that the world economy as a whole benefits from free trade. You can see it in slide. Government-levied tariffs, the best form of protectionist measure in the government-levied tariffs. The common practice is raising the price in the imported products so that they cost more and hence become less attractive than the domestic products. There are many believers that protectionism is a helpful policy for the emergent industries in the developing nations. Second is import quotas. Import quotas are the other forms of protectionism. These quotas limit the amount of products imported into a country. This is considered to be a more effective strategy than protective tariffs. Protective tariffs do not always repel the consumers who are ready to pay higher prices for imported goods. Third is mercantilism. Wars and recession are the major reasons behind protectionism. On the other hand, peace and economic prosperity encourage free trade. In 17th and 18th centuries, the European monarchies used to rely heavily on protectionist policies. This was due to their aim to increase trade and improve the domestic economies. These currently discredited policies are called mercantilism. Yes, you know it, I think. So, and reciprocal trade agreements limit the protectionist measures in lieu of elimination them fully. However, protectionism still exists and is head when economic hardships or joblessness is aggravated by foreign competitions. Currently, protectionism is an unique form. Yes, economists term the form as administrative protection. Most rich nations have fair trade laws. The announced purpose of free trade laws is twofold. First is to make sure that foreign countries do not subsidize exports so that market incentives are not distorted and hence efficient allocation of activity among the countries is not destroyed. The second purpose is to assure that international companies do not dump their exports in an aggressive manner. These mechanisms are meant to augment free trade. Okay, you know that in the 18th and 19th century, almost all nations and nation-states believed that protectionism is must for a well-being of domestic economics. However, with passing time, this idea started to change. The idea of liberalizations and thereby abolishment of protectionist measures peaked in the middle half of the 20th century. The epitome of liberalizations of liberalism took the first palpable shape as GATT, which was later replaced by the WTO. GATT was formed by 23 countries signing the agreement in Geneva in 1947. It was aimed to offer an interim arrangement which could be replaced by a United Nations agency soon. So, what is happened after liberalizations? So, liberalizations and deregulation stimulated the epic run of three major areas of business. First one is international trade grew at an average rate of 6% annually between 1948 and 1997. FDI, foreign direct investment, was impacted too, which saw the stocks and inflows exceed the rise in world trade. And third is foreign exchange markets achieved an average daily turnover reaching trillions of dollars. So liberalizations and deregulations contributes heavily to the globalization of the world economy. This organization, GATT, major principle was trade without discrimination, free trade, yes? The participation nation opened the markets to every other member. According to GATT, once a nation and its largest trade allies had agreed to reduce a tariff, that reduction automatically became applicable to all other GATT members. GATT preferred protection through tariffs, and by leveraging on it, GATT systematically tried to eliminate the import quotas or other quantitative trade restrictions. GATT also had customs regulations and the obligation of the participating nations in negotiating for tariff reduction of any other nation's request. The escape clause was also in place for contracting nations to modify their agreements when their domestic producers suffered excessive losses due to the trade concessions. Then, on 1st January 1995, the World Trade Organization, WTO, replaced GATT. The reasons for GATT being replaced by the WTO are the following. You can see it on the slide. So, in this moment, WTO plays a major role in promoting peace among the countries. WTO lets international trade and investments to run smoothly. Countries also get a constructive and fair institution for dealing with disputes over trade issues due to the presence of the WTO. WTO also plays a role in decreasing the cost of living. But protectionism increases the cost of the goods. WTO lowers the trade barriers via negotiation and through its non-discrimination policy. Why WTO is good for developing countries? Developing countries usually don't have the muscle to negotiate in the international markets, and they need to follow the developed countries' terms. So, WTO's most favored nation, MFN principle, which always market liberalization, helps the developing nation to trade and prosper. Besides, it also supports the multilateral framework for rules and agreement. Developing countries benefit from the intellectual property rules of WTO. Trade-related aspects of intellectual property rights, TRIPS, agreement offers a suitable policy framework that helps to promote technology transfer and FDI flow to developing nations. There was some preferential treatment available for the developing countries too. Generalized System of Preferences, GSP, enables non-reciprocal preferential treatment by developed countries. WTO offers flexibility to developing countries to implement their TRIPS obligation, especially those that are adapted to the Uruguay round. It helps in holistic improvement of developing nations. The second question is the major modern theories of international trade. Okay, you can see the names of these models on this slide. First one is the Heckscher and Olfin model. Second one is Samuelson and Jones model. Third is the Krugman and Opsfeld model. And fourth is the Michael Porter model. Okay, let me start. The Heckscher-Olin theory deals with two countries' trade goods and services with each other in reference with their difference of resources. This model tells us that the comparative advantage is actually influenced by relative abundance of production factors. That is, the comparative advantage is dependent on the interaction between the resources in the countries have. Moreover, this model also shows that comparative advantage also depends on production technology in each country. Production technology is the process by which various production factors are being utilized during the production cycle. The Heckscher-Olin theory tells that trade offers the opportunity to each country to specialize. A country will export the product which is most suitable to produce in exchange for other products that are less suitable to produce. Trade benefits both the countries involved in the exchange. The differences and fluctuations in relative prices of products have a strong effect on the relative income gained from the different resources. International trade also affects the distributions of incomes. Second theory is Samuelson-Jones model. They said that there are two major reasons for which trade influences the income distribution and are as follows. Resources are non-transferable immediately and without incurring costs from one industry to another. Industries use different factors. The change of the production portfolio of a country will reduce the demand for some of the production factors. For other factors, it will increase it. There are three main factors in this model: labor, capital, and territory. For example, food products are made by using territory and labor, while manufactured goods use capital and labor. It is easy to see that labor is a mobile factor and it can be used in both sectors, yes? But territory and capital are specific factors. A country with abundant capital and a shortage of land will produce more manufactured goods, yes, than food products, whatever may the price be. A country with territory abundance will produce more foods. Other elements being constant, an increase in capital will increase the marginal productivity from the manufactured sector. Similarly, a rise in territory will increase the production of food and reduce manufactured. During bilateral trade, the countries create an integrated economy where manufactured goods and food production is equal to the sum of the two countries' productions. When a nation does not trade, the production of a product will equal its consumption. Yes? Trade gains are bigger in the export sector and smaller in the competing import sector. So the third model, the Krugman-Opsfeld model, is the standard model of trade, and it implies two possibilities: the presence of the relative global supply curve stemming from the possibilities of production, and the relative global demand curve arising due to the different preferences for a selected product. The exchange rate is obtained by the intersection between the two curves. An improved exchange rate, all the elements being constant, implies a substantial rise in the welfare of that country. And the last one, is the Michael Porter model. What he said. So, Michael Porter indeed identified 4 stages of development in the evolution of a country. The dependent phases are factors, investments, innovation, and prosperity. Porter talked extensively on attributes related to competitive advantages which an organization can achieve relative to its rivals, which consist of lower cost and differentiation. This advantage derives from factors that permit an organization to outperform its competition, such as superior market position, skills, or resources. In Porter's view, the strategic management of business should be concerned with creating and continuing competitive advantage. So I think that